Let's be honest. When you hear Big Ben Roethlisberger and Andrew Luck are facing off on Turkey Day, you expect an aerial attack. Unfortunately for Colts fans, they won't be seeing their Pro Bowl quarterback when the black and yellow head to Naptown. Luck was ruled out because he didn't practice all week after suffering a concussion on a sack in Sunday's game against Tennessee. Scott Tolzien is expected to get the nod. Stephen Morris has been elevated from the practice squad to back up Tolzien. Both teams are 5-5. Oh, Max Kellerman, with your MVP candidate not playing and Andrew Luck, is this a must-win for the Steelers?
No, it's not. But first, let me say, Andrew Luck's MVP candidacy ain't looking good right now. I was still holding out hope he could get really hot and they could make the playoffs.
You're coming around.
Listen, if he doesn't play in this game, not only does he have less value, but if they win, it looks bad for him. And if they lose, it's going to be that much tougher to make the postseason, to make the playoffs. No, it's not a must-win for the Steelers because they're 5-5, and so are the Ravens. The AFC North is weak right now. And when you look at their schedule, really the difference in their schedule, both fairly typical NFL schedules the rest of the way, but when they play again, it's at home for the Steelers when the Ravens and Steelers play, and the Steelers get the Browns at home. So that really is, even if they lose today, that really is the difference. In more or less evenly matched teams, one team gets the other, the divisional rival with the same record, gets the other at home and gets arguably the worst team in football also at home later in the season. That gives the edge to the Steelers. Even if they lose today, they can still make the playoffs. And so therefore, by definition, it's not a must-win.
Max, you need prayer. You're totally wrong on this one, and I don't even understand how you can come to the conclusion that you just came to. Let me be very, very clear. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you can't beat Scott Tolzien, I don't even want to talk about you no more. I mean, if they lose to this dude, we might have to talk about them tomorrow because we're going to revisit the results of today's games. But that's about it. I don't even want to talk about the Steelers anymore. Now, you can't beat Scott Tolzien? You can't? Him? You've got to be kidding me. I didn't want to hear it. That's number one. Number two, we got to pay attention to what's going on with the Steelers here. Since 2014, this is a team that's averaged 32 points per game at home, only 22 on the road. This year alone on the road, 3 points at Philly, 15 points at Miami, only 2 first downs after 3 quarters at Baltimore. And by the way, they're the only offense this season that couldn't put up 2 touchdowns in a game against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, they've got to get this thing right. They're the 23rd ranked rushing attack. How is that possible when Le'Veon Bell is your running back? I don't understand what's going on here. I'd like to see more of Sammy Coates. He's been, he hasn't been utilized as extensively as he was early in the season. 2 broken fingers or an index finger. I don't know what reports are out there that are true, but that's what they were saying. So we've got those issues to deal with. But if you're the Steelers, offensively, you're going up against a team in the Indianapolis Colts that ranks dead last against the pass. And on the defensive side of the ball, you're going up against some dude named Scott Tolzien. You got to be kidding me. They better win this game. They better win this game.
As a Steelers fan, you can get emotional and stand on principle. Like, if you can't beat Scott Tolzien, that says bad things about the team. By the way, you're right. It says bad things about them, but you can still make the playoffs. So how is it must win? Because you're not comparing yourself to the Colts. You're really comparing yourselves to the Ravens. And the question is, can you make the playoffs in a division where at the moment you're tied with Baltimore? So what I'm saying is this. The Ravens have an elite defense and a subpar offense. The Steelers have a subpar defense and a good offense. And what you pointed out about where they are running the ball and why aren't they doing more in the passing game actually points to the fact that there's upside there. A great future Hall of Fame quarterback, arguably the best wideout in the league, arguably the best running back in the league, and I would say when he's healthy, he is, if you adjust for things like the offensive line and the run blocking and all that stuff. A very good offensive line in Pittsburgh. There is room for growth there. There's reasonable expectation that the offense can get better. And it's around 12th right now. That's 10th or 12th, so that's like upper third-ish. and it can get even better. It can rise to become elite. I don't think the Ravens can play defense any better than they're playing, and they just don't really have the offensive weapons. So when you look at that and then look at the schedule, whatever you want to say about getting emotional about not being able to beat Scott Tolzien and what that means to you, fact is they can still make the playoffs.
The Steelers have the Indianapolis Colts on the road today. You picking them to beat your Giants next week?
No, I hope not. Let's see what the Giants look like this week.
Okay, that's fine. I thought so. After that, they got road games.
It's an even matchup, though. Steelers-Giants is an even matchup.
Hold on. I gave you a chance to answer the question. You gave me your answer. Don't couch it now. Hold on. Let me get to the other games. We got at Buffalo, at Seattle, then a home game against Baltimore and Cleveland to close out the season. If you can't beat Scott Tolzien and the worst-ranked pass defense in the NFL, why should I believe you're going to win these games?
All right, let me ask you this. The Ravens get the Bengals at home this week. Is that a must-win for them? Because if it's a must-win for them, then this can't also be a must-win for the Steelers. Then they get the Dolphins at home, winners of 5 straight. Then they have to play the Pats on the road. Then they get the Eagles at home. Then they close out with the Steelers on the road and the Bengals on the road. In fact, they have the tougher schedule. Not by much, but the difference is they're going to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh also gets the Browns at home. I'm telling you, you can't argue that this is must-win for the Steelers if you also want to argue that it's going to be must-win for the Ravens. Can't be must-win for both because the division's coming down to those two.
Well, first of all, we disagree with that, number one. Number two, and more importantly, I'm looking at it from a talent perspective in this regard. If you can't beat Scott Tolzien, who's also saddled with the worst pass defense in the NFL, what I am simply saying is that I don't have any belief that you'll be able to beat any of those teams to follow on your schedule. I could see Baltimore going back and forth because their defense is their defense, but their offense is somewhat suspect. But what I'm saying about the Steelers is that as suspect as their defense is, everything, talk about the perfect opponent to have, pick your poison. Andrew Luck can't play. Scott Tolzien has to fill in. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you've got a defense in Indianapolis that has the worst pass defense, but you've got Antonio Brown, Wheaton, and the crew, and Jones and everybody, and Coates and everybody else. If you can't beat this team tonight, to me, it is an indictment against who everyone thought you were as the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's all I'm saying. Scott Tolzien,
that's different than saying must
Scott
win.
Tolzien,
What you're saying is you want to see some evidence that the Steelers are who you hope they could be. A must-win game by almost any definition. I'm not talking about people who say
you always make up your definitions. You always want to sit there and say about any definition. Say it's by Max's definition. Max has his own definition of things.
Because I have the best definitions.
I can't reach my dictionary. I wish I could reach my dictionary so I can pick it out.
Here's the next best here's the best definition on this topic. Next topic, I'll give you another best definition. But for this one, I'm not one of those people.
Thank you for admitting it. Thank you for admitting it.
I'm not one of those people who says must win means only when you can be mathematically eliminated. That's ridiculous. You are not to take must win literally. It's a part of language. You use hyperbole to make your point. Must win means if your team, or if this team loses that game, it's over for making the playoffs. You know, for all intents and purposes, it's over. That's not this. That's basically the best working definition of must win I've heard.
That's your definition.
It'd be an embarrassing loss, Max. That's for sure.
My definition,
correct.
My definition is there are pivotal games in a season. There are moments that ultimately define who you are and what you are made of in my mind. That's what I believe. I'm looking at the Steelers' schedule. I'm looking at how the Steelers have looked already. I'm looking at the troubles that they have had. I'm looking at the adversity that they have had to overcome. And I'm saying, if you are the Steelers and you lose this particular game to this particular quarterback, to this particular secondary and defense against the pass, to me, I have no faith in you. That's what I'm saying. That's my definition today of what this means in terms of this being a must-win for the Steelers. That's what I believe.
Hang in. I'm sorry. I'm told that we have to reject that definition. It's not good enough. But, you know, thanks for playing.
All right, gentlemen, we'll leave it there. Coming up, can you feel the love? Kevin Love went absolutely bananas in the first quarter last night, scoring 34 points. Does he finally look like he's a part of the big three? King James, what do you think of Love's performance?
The ball was moving, the ball was popping, and obviously we had a huge hot hand. That was lightning. So we just kept giving him the ball, kept finding him, and the guys just he was just knocking him down.